An alien family slept in a tent. One human promised them a home that night. The night market lights of Port Lysa never truly went dark. Even after the crowds thinned and the vendors shut their stalls, the glow of signs and transit rails painted the streets in soft colors. It was a city built by humans but shared with many species, a place that called itself fair and modern. Yet at the far edge of the human district, beyond the last permanent buildings, the ground turned rough and uneven. That was where the temporary shelters were allowed to stand. A thin tent rested there, barely visible unless someone was looking for it. Its fabric shimmered weakly as it fought against the cold air rolling in from the sea. Inside that tent lay an alien family who had learned to sleep lightly, because comfort was a luxury they no longer trusted. The parents, Keth and Aaron, were wrapped around their two children. Their bodies were taller and slimmer than humans, their skin patterned in soft lines that shifted color with emotion. Tonight, those lines were dull and dark. The heating unit they had been issued was failing again. It had failed many times before, and each time they had reported it, the answer was always the same. Supplies were limited. Processing took time. Please wait. The youngest child stirred, letting out a weak sound. Aaron adjusted the blanket, though she knew it would not help much. The tent was never meant for long-term use. It was meant to be temporary, a short stop before proper housing. They had been told that when they first arrived months ago, carrying nothing but documents and hope. Keth listened to the city noises beyond the tent, laughter from a late bar, the hum of a passing transport, life going on, warm and safe just a few hundred steps away. He wondered, not for the first time, if anyone knew they were here anymore. A human named Daniel walked home along that same edge of the district. He worked maintenance shifts at the orbital docks, long hours that left his hands sore and his mind tired. He liked walking at night because it gave him space to think. He usually kept his eyes on the ground, focused on getting home, but tonight something made him slow down. He noticed the tent. It was not supposed to be there. Temporary shelters were often removed quickly, either upgraded or relocated. This one looked worn, its supports bent slightly inward. Daniel frowned. He had seen a lot of things break down in the docks, and he had learned to recognize when something was past its limits. As he passed, he heard a sound, not loud, not dramatic, just a small, thin noise that carried through the quiet air, a child's sound. Daniel stopped. He told himself it was none of his business. The city had systems, authorities, procedures, but his feet refused to move. He turned and walked back toward the tent slowly, so as not to seem threatening. He cleared his throat and spoke in basic trade language. "Hello. I heard something. Are you okay?" Aaron joined her mate at the opening. The children stayed behind her, their eyes wide and reflective in the low light. "We were told this was acceptable," she said, "until relocation." "Our request lost priority," she said. "Our home system collapsed. We no longer hold trade value." He thought of his own small apartment, nothing special but warm. The child inside the tent coughed. That sound broke whatever hesitation Daniel had left. "You can't stay here tonight," he said, more firmly now. "It's too cold." Humans were known for many things across the galaxy: strength, persistence, noise, but this one looked tired, not powerful, ordinary. That somehow made the offer more confusing. "What are you suggesting?" she asked. Daniel swallowed. He had not planned this far. "I live nearby," he said. "I have space. Not much, but enough. You can sleep inside. Just for the night. You do not know us." His apartment was on the lower levels of a residential block. It was small and plain, with mismatched furniture and a kitchen that barely fit two people. When the door closed behind them, the warmth wrapped around the alien family like something unreal. The children froze in place, staring. Their eyes traced the walls, the ceiling, the lights. Aaron placed a hand on the wall, feeling its solid strength. "This is yours?" Keth asked. Daniel nodded, suddenly feeling awkward. "Sorry it's messy." The children ate slowly, carefully, as if afraid it might vanish. The youngest smiled for the first time that night, her skin patterns brightening in soft waves. As they settled, Daniel sat on a chair watching them. He knew this was not a solution. Morning would come, and with it questions, rules, consequences. Aaron looked at him. "You may face penalties," she said softly. "Yeah," Daniel replied, "probably." Inside the small apartment, 4 aliens slept safely for the first time in months, while one human stayed awake, already thinking about how to make sure this was not just for one night. Morning came slowly to Daniel's apartment, filtered through the narrow window that faced another concrete wall. The light was pale and quiet, nothing like the harsh glare of the market district. Daniel had not slept much. He sat at the small table, a cup of reheated drink in his hands, listening to the soft sounds behind him. The alien family slept on the blankets he had laid out. Their breathing was slow and even. The children were curled close together, their skin patterns calm and light. For the first time since Daniel had met them, they looked peaceful. He wondered how long that peace would last. When Aaron woke, she did so carefully, as if afraid the room might vanish if she moved too fast. Her eyes adjusted to the light, and she took in the solid walls again. They were still there. She sat up and noticed Daniel watching her. "You did not rest," she said. Daniel shrugged. "I'm used to it." The older child, Sally, looked around with open curiosity. "The air is still," she said in wonder. "It does not move." A surface to sit on that did not sink or shift, a place where they could speak without lowering their voices. But the comfort carried a shadow. Keth's posture was tense, his eyes flicking to the door whenever footsteps passed in the hallway outside. "They will come," he said quietly. "We are not registered here. You still intend to help us." "Don't answer if anyone knocks," he said, "unless it's me." He searched relocation requests, refugee protocols, and emergency clauses. Most of it was written in long, dull language meant to discourage reading. But Daniel was stubborn. He kept scrolling. Then he found it. An old regulation, rarely used and almost forgotten. Emergency humanitarian custody. It allowed a registered citizen to temporarily shelter non-registered individuals if they were at risk of harm, pending review. It was meant for disasters, not long-term neglect, but the wording was clear. Daniel saved the document. After his shift, he did not go home right away. He stopped by a small clinic near the docks, where a human medic named Lena worked. He had fixed a door for her once years ago. "I need advice," he told her. She listened as he explained, her expression shifting from surprise to concern. When he finished, she leaned back in her chair. "You're serious," she said. "Yes." "I'll check the kids, no charge." The streets were quieter then, and the family drew less attention. Lena examined the children carefully. She frowned at what she found. "They're undernourished," she said. "Not dangerously, but close. Prolonged cold exposure too. You're lucky you stopped when you did." "That's the problem," she said softly. The next day, Daniel filed the paperwork. The system responded almost immediately. A warning flag appeared on his profile. Unauthorized housing, potential violation. He expected that. What he did not expect was the visit. 2 officials arrived that afternoon. One human, one non-human. They stood in the hallway, their expressions neutral. "We have received a report," the non-human official said. "You are harboring unregistered aliens." The family stood together, the children behind their parents. The officials looked around the apartment, taking notes. "This arrangement is temporary," the non-human said. "You understand that?" The human official cleared his throat. "A review will be scheduled," he said. "Until then, you assume responsibility." A teacher he knew who worked with mixed-species children. A retired clerk who understood paperwork better than anyone. Word spread quietly. A neighbor knocked on Daniel's door the next evening. A human woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. She held a bag of supplies. "I heard you had guests," she said. "Figured you might need this." No one made a show of it, they just helped and left. The family watched it all with disbelief. "Why are they doing this?" Sally asked. Daniel knelt to her level. Because sometimes, he said, humans don't wait for permission. This is too much, she said. We will leave. I risk everything, he said, so that sound doesn't happen again. No matter what happened tomorrow, that promise he made under the cold night sky was no longer just words. The day of the review began with rain. It was light, almost gentle, but it covered the city in a gray haze that made everything feel heavier. Daniel walked with the alien family toward the transit station, his steps steady even though his stomach was tight. Keth carried the smaller child while Aaron held Selly's hand. None of them spoke much. Words felt fragile today. The review hall stood near the civic center, a tall structure of glass and metal. Flags of many species hung inside, symbols of unity that often felt more decorative than real. As they entered, people turned to look. Some with curiosity, some with quiet judgment. They were led into a waiting room. The chairs were cold and perfectly spaced. A screen on the wall displayed case numbers updating without emotion. Daniel sat with his hands folded, reminding himself to breathe. "You do not have to stay," Aaron said softly. "We can speak." The chamber was smaller than Daniel expected. 3 reviewers sat behind a curved desk, one human, one scaled species, and one synthetic intelligence represented by a glowing column of light. Their expressions were calm and distant. The synthetic voice spoke first. "This session concerns unauthorized sheltering of non-registered individuals. I filed under emergency, humanitarian custody." He spoke clearly without anger, but his voice shook when he mentioned the children. Aaron described the tent, the cold, the malfunctioning heater. She did not exaggerate, she did not need to. The human reviewer listened closely. The synthetic processed everything in silence. Finally, Daniel was asked to speak. "I didn't plan to challenge the system," he said. "I just saw people who were being harmed by it." That night, something unexpected happened. A short clip of the review appeared on local networks. Someone had recorded it. Daniel's words, simple and direct, spread quickly. So did images of the tent pulled from archived maintenance footage. Comments followed, some supportive, some critical, many confused. Why were refugees sleeping in tents in a modern city? Other stories surfaced. Different species, different districts, same pattern, temporary shelters that became permanent through neglect. Humans noticed. The next morning, Daniel woke to dozens of messages, people he did not know. Some thanked him, some asked how they could help. A dock worker offered unused storage space. A restaurant owner offered meals. A transport pilot offered free relocation rides. Keth watched Daniel scroll through the messages, his eyes wide. "This is because of us," he said. "No," Daniel replied. "This is because it was already there." The Non-Human Council issued a statement warning that human actions could destabilize resource allocation. Trade representatives spoke of imbalance. Order was at risk, they said. Humans answered in their own way. They shared numbers, empty units, excess supplies, unused energy capacity. They showed that there was no real shortage, only rules about who deserved what. Selly helped Daniel tape a notice near the transit station. Her letters were uneven but proud. It said, "Warm place, safe night, ask inside." "You are changing things," she said. Daniel looked at her. "We're just starting. The docs don't like attention. We are reviewing the broader impact of emergency humanitarian custody. Then maybe order needs to serve people, not the other way around." That evening, a group of non-human residents visited Daniel's building. They did not shout. They did not protest. They asked questions. They listened. One elder spoke quietly. "Your kind treats shelter as a right," she said. "We were taught it must be earned." Aaron worried they had caused harm. "We never wanted this," she said. Daniel placed a hand on the table. "You didn't break anything," he said. "You showed the cracks. That's because you're not cold." His hands felt heavy, as if they already knew the weight of the message. Across the room, the alien family slept. Keth lay on his side, one arm protectively around the children. Aaron's skin patterns were calm, pale, and steady. They had learned in this place how to sleep deeply. Daniel opened the message. The Review Council had reached a decision. Emergency humanitarian custody would not be revoked. Instead, it would be expanded. The council acknowledged that prolonged temporary shelter constituted harm. New standards would be enforced immediately. Shelter would be guaranteed first. Status reviews would follow later. Daniel read the words twice, then a third time. It was real. He let out a slow breath, one he felt he had been holding for weeks. Aaron woke first, sensing the change in the room. She sat up and looked at Daniel's face. "It is decided," she said, not a question. Daniel nodded. "You're safe," he said. "Not just you, a lot of people." When he understood, his posture sagged slightly, like someone who had finally put down a heavy load. The children stirred, confused at first, then excited when they saw the adults' expressions. "We can stay?" Sally asked. "Yes," Daniel said. "You can stay." Vacant housing was reassigned. Mixed-species housing zones were approved instead of delayed. Some protested. Change always made noise, but louder still were the sounds of doors opening, heaters turning on, and people moving inside. The family's relocation happened quietly. A real housing unit, modest but solid, near a shared park. It had rooms, windows, a kitchen sized for more than survival. When Aaron stepped inside, she pressed her hand against the wall again, just as she had in Daniel's apartment. This time, she did not look afraid. "This is ours," she said, her voice unsteady. "Yes," Daniel replied. "It is." Daniel returned to work, though his role changed. The docs no longer saw him as just a maintenance worker. People recognized his name now, not as a hero but as a reference point. "Like Daniel did," they would say. That phrase spread in quiet ways. Other species began to ask questions, not with fear but with curiosity. Why had humans reacted this way? Why had one promise turned into a movement? Humans answered honestly. They spoke of their own past, of migrations, of cities filled with tents, of cold nights and missed chances, of learning slowly and painfully that shelter was not charity, it was foundation. The Galactic Council issued a follow-up report months later. It did not praise humanity openly. Councils rarely did, but it recorded a shift. Human-led sectors showed lower conflict rates. Refugee integration reduced long-term resource strain. Cooperative housing increased productivity. The data spoke where politics hesitated. Sally adapted faster than anyone expected. She learned human language easily, laughing at its strange sounds. She attended a shared school, where children of many species argued, played, and learned together. One day she came home holding a simple model made of blocks and sheets. "It's a house," she explained, "but it changes." He became something rarer, reliable. The family grew into the city. Keth worked with logistics planning, helping redesign relocation systems with real timelines. Aaron joined a cultural exchange group, teaching officials what temporary truly felt like when it lasted forever. Sally studied design. When she was older, she stood before a council not unlike the one that had once judged her family. She spoke clearly without anger. "We do not ask if shelter is deserved," she said. "We ask how fast it can be built." The text beneath it read, "Humanity's reputation shifted across the stars, not the strongest, not the loudest, not the most advanced, but the species that when they saw someone sleeping in the cold said, 'Come inside,' and then meant it. And that promise once made never truly ended."